Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the January 16th, 2018 Salisbury City Council work session. We have a short agenda today, and first up on the agenda is the Beaver Run Switch Road annexation. Bill Holland, Andy, and Ann, you coming up too, or? No? Okay, we're good. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
This is the introductory of new annexation to the city. It's the Beaver Run Switch Road annexation. It's the northeast corner of Walsall Switch Road and Route 50. With me today, I have Scott Wolford from Mazer Consulting, who's representing the property owner, who, after I give you a little brief overview of the project or the annexation, and he can provide you maybe a little bit more. Again, this is a parcel. It currently has a gas station and a small convenience store, approximately 2.5 acres. It has 2 lots, which I'm sure will be re-subdivided to probably erase that lot line in the future once it's annexed. The proposed once it's annexed, we're proposing to probably construct a 10,000 square foot building, which would probably consist of retail, maybe gasoline. The next part of this annexation next would be going to the Planning Commission to get the property rezoned, and then getting with their consultant to draw up the annexation plan and annexation agreement with Mazer Consulting. What I'll do, I'll just go ahead now and turn it over to Mr. Wolford and let him provide you a little bit more insight what they may have planned there.
Thank you. My name is Scott Wolford with Mazer Consulting. I'm a certified planner and a licensed landscape architect, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us this afternoon. We're representing Petroleum Marketing Group. They're a landowner and operator of about 1,200 gas station sites up and down the East Coast from the Tidewater area to Rhode Island. Most of those are gas station convenience stores and car washes, but several of those they're recently converting into hotels, dock in the box, or medical facilities and other uses like that. They currently own 2 lots, lot 1 and 2, on Beaver Run Road and Walston Switch Road. This is the community college. This is the new Royal Farm facility on the opposite corner, and this is the Tri-County facility. All 3 of the corners of this intersection are already in the city, have been annexed in over time. So they would like to redevelop this site. They currently use lot 1 for a small convenience store and gas station dispensary, and lot 2 is their well and septic field. And so I've got with me today just a quick plan of what they might be able to do on lot 1 and 2. So this is Route 50 across the bottom of the page, Walston Switch Road on the left, and then Beaver Run Drive on the top. This shows a 10,000 square foot retail center with a parking field in front of it. And then currently they have plans for the end tenant to be a well-known coffee distributor out of the Northwest with a drive-through window that would come around and serve that. So this is just one of the current plans that they're thinking, but they are aggressively, actively pursuing redevelopment of the site. So it will occur very soon if the annexation is successful.
And the total acres is how many?
2.68 acres between the 2 lots, and that's lot 1 and 2 in the Beaver Run Business Park.
Yeah. Any questions from anyone?
Did you say lot 2 was septic?
Yeah, lot 2, yes, is
Currently.
currently, yes. So that'll be recovered according to all the state and county codes and everything, and then they'll get public water and sewer, hopefully, if they're annexed.
Now, this will go now to the Planning Commission?
That would be next. Yeah, I believe that it's scheduled for next month.
Yeah, because this month's meeting is canceled.
Right.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any questions.
No.
Yep.
I just asked what I needed.
You're supportive? Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Mr. Udisill, how are you?
Is this the annexation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You okay? Good.
I did have a question.
Go ahead.
Looking at the map, I wasn't exactly sure what I was looking at. Is it the,
He's got the map ready so we can
Yeah.
look at it.
I wasn't sure if it was where the Royal Farm is
It's
or
it's
across?
diagonal. across.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Because I didn't see the circle. Okay, yeah.
This is the Royal Farm with the new circle, the community college, the Tri-County facility, and it's lot 1 and 2 in the Beaver Run
Yeah,
business park.
I just wasn't sure. I thought that's what it was,
Yes.
but I wasn't sure because I thought this must be an old map because I'm not seeing the circle and I
Yeah.
wasn't sure what I was looking
Yeah.
for. Thank you.
And even since this photo was taken, the Arby's is almost
Right.
complete.
Yeah,
now.
it is.
And ready to go. So
Yeah.
you can't
It's a,
rest too long or
it's a
something.
living document, yes. It is a living document.
Yes.
Okay, we have consensus then. Good.
All good?
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thank
for your
you.
time. I appreciate
you.
it. Have a good evening.
You too.
Same to you.
Next up is park rental requests and fee schedule. Andy, you're up.
I've got time. I want to bring up to
Oh, you're bringing the heavy guns in.
Don't make them too heavy.
I saw that we budgeted 55 minutes for this. Hopefully it won't take that long unless you have a lot of questions.
Oh, I got a few.
Okay. And that's why I brought my heavy hitter with me.
Hi, Tom, how are you?
So there's a lot to digest within this conversation, and I brought Tom here to talk about it from the direct impact it has to field operations. But before we jump into it and some of the numbers, the reason why we are bringing a proposal for a fee schedule of facility rentals is kind of threefold. I mean, and this is me coming from the county understanding when we rented out parks there. We consider there to be three reasons to have a fee, three primary reasons. One, there is an actual additional maintenance or labor that's required when you are having to set up, prep, and clean a facility that's not having daily transient use. A couple people in the park rather than a party of 100 people coming to a thing adds additional waste that needs to be addressed by field operations. There's also some additional prep because you want to make sure stuff looks good for people who are using it for a special event. Second is the exclusive use of that. Whenever somebody rents a facility or space, you're preventing public consumption of that area, whether you're renting out a pavilion, you're renting out the downtown plaza, a street, and there could be a cost associated with it. People could say, well, that should be a cost because you're preventing it. From the county's standpoint, anytime there was 8 or more people, you had to get a permit, a license. Right now, we do the dollar kind of as the holding place for that rental or leasing that space. And this, it would recommend something more than $1. And then the third way that we look at it is from the revenue side. Whenever you do have ongoing wear and tear of facilities, you have things that are going to break, things that need to get replaced, small investments, lights, light fixtures, toilets, small hand washing dispensers, a bench here, a bench there. Small projects that you can either pull out your operating expense or you can have an account of revenue that can help offset the cost of those operational expenses. So it's almost like a revenue or an enterprise fund. Rather taken away from the ongoing operational things, it's things that may happen as a result of ongoing rentals. Now, so I think the conversation, there's two pieces. One, should we look at having a rate schedule? And then two, we can kind of look at more of the numbers. And I've got some examples of some of our local people who have rates. I've got the county, Berlin, and Worcester, and there's just some rate comparisons of what they charge if we're looking at actually having more than $1 rental fee. Tom, if you want to speak kind of openly about when there is a rental, how taxing it is for you guys, not only in a pavilion rental or park rental, and then maybe like downtown or something.
Yeah, well, thank you, Andy. Good afternoon, everybody. Long time no see. It is true. Trying to support these kinds of events, whether it be a race or the use of a facility like a pavilion or what have you, it does take up some staff time. When I moved down to field operations a little over a year ago, it became quickly apparent to me that we spend a lot of time supporting events. So having this revenue stream certainly would help to offset some of our cost. I think one of the main things here, it would allow us to tie the dedication of resources to the event, whatever it is in particular. Right now, all of those things are just kind of being gobbled up as normal operations for the Streets and Parks Department. But I think being able to kind of see directly what impact this is having, it would be beneficial for us. And then it would also benefit the user as well, because then they've got an application, they've paid a fee, and there's a little bit more in the way of dedicated expectation for that asset or facility. So we do spend a lot of time with it. I think Andy's spot on here with his recommendation to charge a fee. And I know that, like I said, we spend a lot of time working on supporting events.
Somebody else want to go first, or you want me to give a crack at it?
Well, I have one question, well, maybe more than one afterwards. But the ones that you're deciding to rent out now, which are basically all of them, seem like to me, are you gonna put signage up stating that there will be a charge, and to how many people are allowed, like we did for the county, that are allowed before you have to pay? Or well, you're gonna have to pay for, if you're gonna have an event?
But technically, right now, if you're going to have a gathering of sorts, you're supposed to get a permit regardless,
Yeah.
and you just pay your dollar. So that already is in place. This would just be an escalation of what that fee schedule would look like, depending on the size and scope of what you want to do during that rental.
Okay, but for awareness,
Right now, it's
For
at
the
any,
public.
yeah, it's
yeah.
at any public facility, any of the city facilities. There's an application process, and you mark off which.
No, I'm saying signage.
Oh, signage.
For the public, because you already know, and you just as well as I know, people think that it's free automatically, and now simply because a lot of these parks have been basically free, then I think the proper thing for the city to do is to put some signage, letting them know that there's now a charge, and, if you're out here and you have more than, ample amount of people where you're having a festivity, then you will be charged a fee. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, I think, April, if we do go down the route of this, I think just bringing better awareness and letting people know that if you are having a gathering of sorts at a facility, then you should go through the permit process. We probably won't list out fees at that point, but I think just like there's signage in the Billie Jean Jackson Pavilion, Winter Place, it says, if you have X amount of people, you should get a permit to rent this space out. And I think we could look at some of just that language that exists. I'm not 100% sure if we have any of that right now.
There's no
It's
signage up anywhere currently. We haven't run into a lot of conflict with people expecting the space to be available and they're not, them not being able to use it. So I think most folks know that they need to go through the
No,
application
a lot of
process.
them call me,
Do
and I tell them
Right.
that they have to go to the city
Okay.
in order to be able to use it, because if someone else comes out there that does have that authorization to use it, then you have to move out of that space and allow them to use that.
Signage is
space,
easy.
yeah.
I mean, we can handle that within our own traffic
Yeah,
department.
just for safety measures and to let people be aware that there is now a cost, because a lot of people just go out there assuming that they can just use that park without paying for it. And I've seen a lot of people out there who have not come to the city for even the application.
And there's some awareness that need to happen on the county side parks too. And there's a couple pieces. The idea of getting a permit in general would be so that you don't have two groups showing up, whether it's a birthday party and family reunion, you've got two people and it's first come, first serve. You want to try to avoid those scenarios. The permit also allows you to say, actually, I've reserved this. It allows everybody, the bathrooms are unlocked potentially, everything's stocked, trash has been picked up from the day before, another event. With some of your more high-profile parks that have amenities, people want to use those more often. And then just being able to track that, I think, helps not only from the facility standpoint, but also from just the customer service, allow that we are providing space that is clean, safe, and secure, and that we're able to, not even our city police, hey, we've got a an event that has 200 people out here on Saturday, yep, it's been approved, we know exactly what's going on out here. So we're not having a ride through and people are not sure if this is a group that's been permitted to be out here, or if it's just something else going on. Now, and one thing that we've had with some conversation, going back and forth and looking at it, and one, even from when I was in the county, one of the biggest arguments that people make against fees, or even fee increases, is if I am a taxpayer, I should have access to this space for free, unconditionally. Right.
This is where I was going to go, and we just increased taxes on homeowners in the city of Salisbury, and now we're going to say a service that they're accustomed to receiving for free. We're going to retract that also. Do you have anything to substantiate the need for these fees that we can truly grab onto? Not to say that that would sway one's opinion, so we do have that. So when we're asked about it, we can give people a true rationale, a true substantiation, because we're making a lot of financial changes in this city right now. I don't use the parks in that capacity, and I do need to educate myself on how they are currently being used. But you also have to keep in mind the city residents are being taxed, city, county, we just increased taxes, and now we're going to, and then how are we going to specifically know that these funds are being tied to the maintenance and improvement of these parks? How will we know that?
Well, I think I'm on the same page as you are. That was my concern from the beginning. I think I even mentioned that when the topic was first brought up. And I think that there's two pieces of it. There's the practical piece of it, and there's the philosophical piece of it. I'm struggling still with why we're doing it, because I agree with Mr. Rudisil to a point that their taxes are going to the parks. That's why we have let me finish.
Yeah, sorry.
And I think that there's an expectation, and I think to skip ahead, if we did it, the enforcement piece of it would be equally as difficult. What happens if you have a family of 10? They'll go down and want to put 2 picnic tables together in a park. We're going to charge them a fee?
I'm not sure if enforcement with any of them is tricky, and you know that from the Recreation Commission side of things. Typically, the enforcement side of it is you don't necessarily kick people out. You just make them aware of what they're supposed to be doing. The permit allows me to come up and say, I have the right to be here, so you have to allow me to be here. It's more of like the opposite. The permit gives you the permission to use it. We can't regulate all the facilities all the time. With specific areas that are common spaces that would have to be modified to accommodate a special event, a 5K run, a downtown plaza where you're changing traffic patterns, that's a different conversation. And then some of this addresses some indoor rental space, but we're specifically talking about outdoor parks and pavilions. It really kind of comes down to the question of, does everybody pay for exclusive use of a facility or not? So if we have to spend additional labor hours or overtime for field operations to maintain and pick up parks and facilities, does everybody pay for that, or does the one person who wants to use it subsidize the majority of it? Is it all taxpayers, or is it private use? And that's, I can see it either way.
It's a lot more than you all think it is because of me having to govern some of the parks during the summer. You'll see people come out and just totally trash the park. Trash it. If the bathrooms have to be open, sometimes you can go in there, bathrooms trash, something's tore up, plumbing, pipes, whatever. So, you have to make people, and I know we pay taxes, but you have to, it's just like a security. You know, if you're paying something, you know that you're invested in it. You're gonna take care of it. You're gonna make sure something's not damaged or tore up, or you're gonna make sure that area is clean, or you do the best you can. But if you just go out there for free, you're just leaving trash everywhere. You're just doing anything you want to do. I've seen it. I mean, I'm not saying that it's right, but how do you stop this? Because I have seen where people have just totally trashed the park.
And I can understand, for instance, let me give you the one hand where I have no issue with it. You have a company that wants to have a company picnic at a park using the facilities. I'm not worried about those guys. Those guys are used to it. We did it when I was running the plant. We paid the fee. We actually cleaned up the place. That was part of our agreement that we were gonna clean up the place. And that's a simple, very straightforward issue. The ones that are gonna be the concerning ones are the ones that I said, a family of 10 or 15.
Yeah, I'm
What do
with
you
on
do?
that.
I mean, let me ask another question, maybe that would help me in my head. When someone comes in and rents the place, is there a sign that goes up that says today from such and such a time to such and such a time? Well, I think that's an issue,
From dusk to dawn.
because I go up and I'm sitting there with 30 people and I didn't get the permit. And another guy comes in with 10 people and goes, oh, we got this whole place. Well, if there's no information that says they have the whole place, how do you deal with that? You could end up with a problem.
Well, I know when I have come up here to, get the, certificate for having the park, the Lake Street Playground, I've had to give them approximately how many people I'm expecting and the time that I'm going to be there. Now, they have asked me that question. Now rightfully, they have asked me that. But just like the county parks, if it's, and I'm like Jack on that, if it's less than 10 people or less, then that's fine. But anything over, we do 25 at the count for the county. It's 25 or more, then there's that fee. But if someone's coming out there just to have a little birthday party, I mean, you wanna, you do wanna accommodate them to a certain extent, but for a larger crowd, I could see you charging, yeah, I mean, and we do it for the county.
There's also stipulations, so you can also put restrictions on who, hey, it's a for-profit, it's a company business. Because some people say, why are there nonprofit rates? If this is a smaller event,
Yeah.
can I get a discount? Can I get a waiver? Hey, we're doing a fundraiser, do I have to pay? So there's all these different degrees. It's almost, what is the baseline, and then where do we move off from that? And then comparing like the overall landscape. So when people are shopping around, whether it's wedding venues, private functions, they're seeing, what's the cost. And I specifically know from the county, people would call up the county because I had to deal with it, and they'd say, how much does it cost to rent Billie Jean Jackson? I say $190 for the day. And they go over to Lake Street and rent it out for free. Because it was free versus this, and you have the same 200 people or 150 people going across. And because they knew the city park was free, so people would skip out, would bypass the county to go to the city for free. Doesn't matter to us. I mean, it's a cost of doing what. But now, field operation of parks is having to deal with the setup and cleanup without a mechanism in place to be able to manage that. So I mean, it's and again, I don't like charging people for stuff that they're paying for through their taxes. The question is it's just the operational cost of the extra wear and tear, extra taxing on Tom's team when there's private use, or here's a good example. There's private leagues that happen in city parks that make money and use lights, use staff, use facilities, and don't charge and get it for free. So
I have no issue, and I
Whether-
think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think what I would like to see, and I know it may take us a little bit of time,
Yeah.
another work session, but I would like to see a classification format that says under,
this is what you're doing.
this
it
is
for.
the, right.
Okay.
This is the group that's gonna take a whole facility with everything else, with the restroom facilities, all the rest of that stuff. And then there's different levels. And then we look at the last level, where I think is gonna be the issue.
Okay. So it's almost like attended use, size of
Yes.
use, all that.
Does that
Well,
make sense?
I think maybe, one of the things, I don't have a problem, for example, Dover Dale Playground, if somebody wants to use the facility, open the bathrooms, use the kitchen, because it is a health department certified kitchen. When you go to the health department, it's has everything that they need, freezer, refrigerator. I don't have a problem with charging a fee for that facility. If they want to use, if for an event, or anything like that inside, I mean, I've used it and have paid the fee. It's just the time that I did it, I had to pay the county to have somebody at the city when the county was, I mean, it was a mess. But I don't have a problem with a facility like that. Now, if a family just wants to use the pavilion without the amenities of the building, I don't see why a city resident should be able to use that because it's theirs. If you've got a couple charcoal grills there in the park, I mean, if they have a family picnic and they want to have a birthday party there with the charcoal grills, I don't think that they should have to go to the city and apply for a permit to use their grills and their picnic tables. I don't think that they should have to do that. But if they want to use the building, have access to the bathrooms and everything, that's a different story. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with, if somebody wants to use the downtown plaza for an event, and we close the plaza off and we've got to put up barricades and all, I don't have a problem with that because a lot of that is on Saturdays and it's typically days that our employees are off. So I don't have a problem with some of that. I think like Jack, my concern is, what I consider normal use of our park for our everyday citizens. I don't think that they should have to go through a complicated process to have a picnic with their family. I know that there are several official leagues, basketball, there's some baseball occasionally, but not as much anymore. And I know that there's like a loose soccer league. They play at Doverdale, but I mean, they're not really an official league, but they're usually there on Sundays through the spring, summer, and fall. They don't wear uniforms and stuff, but it's kind of like a loose league. I don't know, those guys, I don't think we should be charging. The guys that play basketball regularly, it's usually the same group of guys down there playing basketball every weekend. I don't think we should be charging them to use that. But if it's an official league and there are uniforms and there's trophies and stuff like that, I think that that's a different level.
Okay.
Because that's more of a official organization.
You're not gonna charge the kids for playing basketball, and you're not gonna charge the family of probably 10, especially if they don't wanna use the facilities to use the park. But if it's a group of probably more than like 10 or 15, they're having a big party, they need to use the facilities. And basically, because a lot of people, and I keep saying, and I'm gonna continue, they won't clean up behind themselves. And most of these events take place on the weekend. Saturdays and Sundays is when most of these events take place. You hardly have an event during the weekdays, and especially in the summer. Most of these take place on the weekends. And then like Andy said, versus them coming to the Billie Jean Jackson Park or the Emerson Holloway Park or the Indian Village Park, they will prefer going to a park where they don't have to pay, but they get the same facilities. And then you go in, because at one time I was governing the Lake Street Playground, and you go in there, the pipes in the bathrooms are atrocious, and there's trash everywhere. So I feel like, and I don't feel wrong because I've been there and I've witnessed all this. So I feel like they should, signage should be put up. Group of 10, anything over a group of 10, and using facilities, they should be charged a minimal fee for the uses, because the bathrooms are gonna be open, and somehow, some way, sometimes, they get damaged.
Speaking on to that, it sounds like, from what I'm hearing, it's really more of like that extended family, smaller use, up to 20, 25, but like figure out this threshold, and when you're having more of a public event rather than a private family thing is really what we're talking about, rather than,
Yeah.
hey, I'm just having a few people over. One of the things, I still would recommend people going through, like we do right now, a formal permit process, so you don't have two families showing up.
I don't have any issue
But
with that.
no,
but I
here's the
think-
threshold where we start hitting money.
But that's when it comes into the notification that this facility has been called If you don't do that, you're gonna end up with more problems. So I think a placard or a standard
Yes,
place
that's what I'm saying.
that says,
Signage.
today, from X number to X number, the So family has this, and the restroom facilities or whatever.
Yep.
And I have no trouble if they want the restroom facilities opened and cleaned, that's fine. But I'm talking about 15 to 20 members of a family who finally say, look, we want to have a cookout this weekend, let's go down to the park and have a cookout.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And you
just,
know, we do that at the other parks. I think it's 25. Anything over 25, you have to rent the park. Other than that, you can just go into the pavilion and have a good old time. Bathrooms are not unlocked, but you're having a good old time. But you don't have access to the other facilities. You just have access to the pavilion. You eat your crabs, you eat your barbecue, and you're done.
Because if they did have control of the building, and we have somebody who's rented a building, rented a space, we give them the key to the bathroom, and they use the inside, and something happens, and we know who's responsible for it.
Oh, well, you want to charge them more
And I
than
think, because there has to be an
$50.
accountability when they're using the,
If they're using the concession stand, believe me, you're gonna wanna charge more, give them a deposit.
That's a whole nother
That whole nother
conversation
issue, yeah, it is.
that's going to be coming up at a different
yeah.
place
I'm
about
telling you
use
now. Mm-hmm.
of the actual inside of the concession stand. Maybe looking more to a
Go ahead, Mark had something.
joint use agreement.
I haven't heard any talk yet, but one of my concerns is the basketball, tennis court situation.
well, that's, yeah.
Because that could lead to a fight. You know, if you get like middle-aged guys who have paid their $5 an hour and they show up and they've got teenagers who say, no, you can't, I could just see trouble there, but you gotta regulate that in some way.
Well,
Really, so from the rental standpoint, you know, coming from the county, having large scale leagues, it's a little bit different. But what would happen is you'd have teams rent out a facility on Tuesdays for just forever, or you would have, you know, like in the evening time in the summer programs, you have people who will say, well, I'm going to have my program here so nobody else can use this park for the entire summer or this entire season because I have rented it, but there's no fine. So now I cannot use it because somebody else has said, well, I rented it first. So it's the extended rentals for leagues, tournaments, that type of stuff that, to me, there's got to be a value associated with taking that out of the normal circulation. Because if this is my neighborhood basketball court, my neighborhood field, and I want to go play ball, and I can't because it is taken up because of a private league that I'm not eligible, I'm too old, I'm too young, I didn't qualify for it, I'm a girl and it's a guy league, whatever it is, then, you know, what am I supposed to do at that point? There's got to be some piece. So some of the notes I took, and I want to make sure, and I know Hardy, I think you had some.
Well, let me hear your notes.
Yeah, the notes, it seems like there seems to be some sort of a tiered system, starting from the basic use. If I'm under this and it's for kind of private family gathering, let's just keep it at the $1 with the rental fee. If you want to have exclusive use, and the way it is it says if you have more than 8, you're technically supposed to get a permit if you want to have exclusive use of an area. If you don't, you can just show up with your friends and family and go have a picnic. But other people could be doing the same thing. Then there's kind of another level, and then we can figure that out, is, you know, are you renting it for a larger organization? And then there's also, are you doing it for maybe for profit? If you're a for-profit or you're trying to make money off of the situation, is that a different tier? We also talked about different amenities. Some of the bigger parks, I have it as like Doverdale and Lake Street, maybe even the downtown in the city park with a bandstand where you have restroom facilities that have an additional potential cost, or if you want to turn the lights on rather than the Newton Camden Tot Lot, which there is no necessarily bigger facility. Maybe there is some delineation of what you're doing there. I do think grass park pavilions, parks rather than downtown plaza or streets or park closure, when you start changing traffic patterns
Yeah,
or
that's-
influencing people, I think that's a different conversation.
Yep, you have no, I don't think you have any argument there.
Right, and then and right now we have it kind of as a variant thing. And let's not talk about the community centers just yet, because that's a whole, there's actual hard costs with utility costs and spaces with that. And maybe we split this up into two conversations. The other piece to this rental fee schedule, this personnel, supplies, equipment, this is add-ons, not your traditional. So if you needed somebody to come out there and watch and be a nighttime supervisor, or you needed maintenance for other reasons, or if you needed, you're having a large-scale event, there's costs that are associated with booking those staff, because there's hard costs associated with personnel there. And then supplies. You know, if you're renting a portalet, if you want us to rent it, or if you want
Yeah.
additional, all that stuff's separate, so.
You
Those,
also had one with nonprofit, I think, a reduced rate.
yeah,
Well, I like the language, and I just got this language, I was looking at another district's park, and what they say, if it's revenue generating,
Revenue.
25 or more, and it's revenue generating. That way, we don't have to make the
Yeah.
distinction between profit and nonprofit. If you have 25 people or more and you're generating revenue, you should pay
Yeah.
to be in this space.
Yeah.
That's fine.
one of the things that we,
That would include your leagues and all that other stuff.
a lot of people, when I was at the county, they would come and say, yes, it's generating revenue, but it's a fundraiser for X
It's
cause.
generating revenue.
Okay, so generating
This
revenue, okay.
generation of revenue takes all the other ifs out of
Okay.
it.
You're generating revenue.
Okay.
I just said 10 at the Lakeshore Playground in Dovedale, because they can't hold it, they won't hold as many people as the larger parks will. That's just why I said 10.
Yeah, and honestly, when I heard 10, I think about,
The family.
my mother had 5
My-
children, so
my-
if we all got together.
If my family goes and lives in town, there's 14 people.
Well, mine too, so.
I mean, if we're gonna have a family picnic, it's 14 people.
And 25 is, we're not necessarily sending a city cop or a park rangers
They
with that.
count.
Well, like, you're like, that's definitely 20.
26.
Yeah, like,
You're outta
But
here.
you can see, yeah, there's a handful of people using that space.
Yeah.
And the impact is minimal. Now, one of the things within it's not in the language right now, I don't believe, is if you do have a small gathering and you do fill out your permit and you break stuff or you don't pick things back up, and then I have it rented the next day for a large-scale event, and this place is trashed, right now, there's not any consequences for that small-scale rental, so I don't know if there is a $25 deposit or some extra thing that is associated with it, or we just say, it is what it is, and then we just kind of figure it out as we go, and that's what I do. I see those as being the less frequent as these family gatherings, as opposed to people wanting to have scheduled
Yeah,
activities or
family
events,
gatherings,
are very few.
Now, this brings me back to my original concern. How much of an issue are we having with this at this time? Is there something to substantiate the expense and so forth and so on that we can look at?
there is.
Right now, April through October, we have to send a crew out on Sunday morning to clean up from just what occurs in the parks on Saturday.
And
Can you sort of quantify that for the next meeting with this? Just average?
Yep.
And then we'll have that.
By that you mean cost?
Cost.
yeah, not only
That's it.
just.
that's probably
just-
overtime
Just
costs
clean up, but
as well.
damage.
It's usually 2 people.
Yeah,
per-
and-
And I
Two
think there
people.
has to be, whatever we do, there has to be something that if
So
a
that
group
doesn't
rents it and
include the
trashes the
damage.
place, they don't get rental again.
Yeah.
There
And
has
it
to be
does-
an accountability at some
Yeah,
point.
it doesn't
penalty
even,
or
like I said, it doesn't even include the damage
Yeah.
Right.
of the facilities and even the picnic tables and all that kind of stuff that
Yeah.
kind of gets.
Do we want to go to like well, no, that would be too prohibitive, but some sort of deposit, because these are nominal fees. You know,
Oh,
I
yeah.
could pay you
Oh, yeah.
$100, trash the place, and not lose, not be concerned about it at all. You know, I wonder how responsive it is, to the point, I mean, I guess it can be pursued through other avenues.
So, yeah, there's, I didn't include this in there because I didn't want to overly complicate it. There's a use agreement that when people sign it, has language in there that includes if there's destruction of property, there
Okay,
can be an
perfect.
additional fee assessed to you, and you can't rent the park until that fee is paid. And it could be an hourly labor cost, or it can be a replacement. We typically understand that if I'm paying $25 for this and a toilet gets broken and there's this major, most people, there's a certain part where we just got to figure it out. But if it's malicious destruction of property, there's a
So that's
different-
already covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely cover. If there is large-scale events, you should require liability insurance. There's some sort of insurance coverage, so in case there
Yeah.
does happen, they are covered themselves.
Well, especially if you got something like a 5K or a major event that's gonna attract hundreds of people, I mean, that's.
Well, you're
should be
gonna have
required.
someone to come out and before you rent it, to survey and see everything's in place at that time, so you'll know what isn't and what is in place. So if there was some damage, you can very well say that maybe these people did, because that's gonna be kinda hard.
There's,
Because when you have
yeah.
other people in the park.
Understanding from my past, and Tom, why don't you jump in, is if they're doing any sort of site prep, hey, we gotta make sure, like, the facility is accessible, it's been stocked, there's a quick once-over that you're looking through to see kind of what it looks like. Typically, what you have is you have people have a lot of leftover trash that they're not putting in their receptacles, it's amount of crabs that are just thrown all over the place, it's people clogging up toilets, it's all this other stuff, rather than are they breaking pieces of equipment or like tearing up fences. You don't just have like, people can do that whether it's a special event or not. You don't have that. But it's specifically not kind of cleaning up, returning the
Yeah.
space to what it was supposed to look like, using the proper trash
Reused it.
receptacles. Yeah, and that's usually what you see because it's an extra, it's his guys, instead of going a touch up and emptying trash cans, there's just stuff that's blown everywhere from the night before, they're unclogged, and now they're spending, instead of 20, 30 minutes at a spot, it's an hour or two, and bring out another crew, it becomes this whole sort of a piece. And again, you know, these are, from doing some of the stuff, I've seen as little as $25. They do it hourly, you know, Berlin does $50 a thing, Worcester does $50, some people do $100. It all depends on where you want to be at. It can be hourly, it can be daily, it can be a lot of different options.
I just think we should keep in mind the fact of the people that we're talking about, that we want to use the place and we don't want to charge them. We don't want to burden them, because probably the reason they're going to have it there is because they can't afford to have it someplace else.
Right.
So I think we have to be sensitive to that. So I think you should take everything that we've heard today. Now, the good news is that we've got our fifth Monday, which gives you 3 weeks, right, till the next meeting that we have. So hopefully we can come back and continue the discussion. I think that we're in a good place in time relative to this discussion, because we're not in the season yet. I don't think anybody's gonna go out and have a picnic at Picnic Island in the next couple of weeks. But I think you got the gist, and I'm more comfortable now than I was in the beginning, so.
And right now, we're getting rental requests in that we're, because nothing's been established, they're paying their dollar for their space. And what I'll do is I'll work hard to get this out early enough so it can be reviewed.
Good, that's a good
So you
idea.
guys can take a look
Yeah,
at it.
the
if
earlier
you
the
don't need-
better,
Okay.
so that we can bring our questions and we don't have to talk about every single issue. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Any other discussions? Good of the order.
I need to do a presentation on this trash issue that we're having in multifamily units.
Well, then we'll put on the agenda for
The next work session?
next work session.
Okay.
Is that all right?
It's getting out of control.
So you're gonna be here tomorrow now?
Yes.
Okay. We'll get it on the agenda.
Thank
We'll be
you.
here tomorrow and we'll put it on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. Nothing else? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.